Hello, welcome to Think and Grow Rich Daily Hangouts. The dog's next door are going crazy because they can hear me speaking. This is a hangout dedicated to the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. We meet every Monday morning, every weekday morning rather. And if you want to actually be in the hangout, you just need to join the Facebook group where I post the link. It's in the comments. If you post on the top link, you'll only get the link to watch. So if you're watching this and you want to be on it, because I know this has happened, you need to go into the Facebook group and look at the comments part of the post I made about today's hangout, and just click on it, and it will ask you if you want to join. You'll probably have to download the Google apps for Hangouts, but it should allow you to come in. I would use Chrome as well if you're having trouble getting in. All right, so hi everyone. Who's here?
Hi everyone.
Geraldine,
I looked away and suddenly there's
and Tracy.
Good morning.
How are you all doing?
Good.
Great, pumped up, and sweating already at 11 o'clock.
It's very hot, isn't it? It's in France anyway. I don't know how it is.
We're gonna be hitting 35 degrees today.
Wow. Yeah.
To the Americans, only the Americans. That's 91 degrees. That's freaking hot. So.
It's
And how
good.
about you down in you're up in the hills, so you get at least probably 5 degrees extra on the coolness.
Yeah, it usually is very cool up here, but
And a sea
the
breeze.
past 3 or 4 days it's been so hot. Like we went for a walk this morning at 9:30, and usually it's cool at that time, but it was very hot. So it's good though. I like it. Chica doesn't like it so much, my dog. But
Fur coat and all.
hey, Glenn. Oh, maybe not. And how is it in Ireland, Geraldine?
We have a gorgeous, today's the first day of summer, I'd say, because I think it's going to hit about 20 degrees, which is really hot.
20. Wait, did you say 20? I'm wearing a jacket at 20.
Good morning.
Yeah, this is you forget actually, Tracy, when you're in the south of France, how you get used to it being hot. I remember in England being so happy when it got to like double figures. Now it's like, come on, let's at least hit 30.
Yeah, we get spoiled down here because when you watch the news and they show the weather, they show the map of France, and it always shows like rain, 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 and then there's this little like beautiful rainbow at the bottom, just a little arc.
Yeah.
And inside that arc is right now where Sandy and I are.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we always get the heat and the rain.
Yeah.
But Ireland, at least Ireland is a lot greener than what we have. We're like semi-desert.
Yeah. I'm just finding the page. Okay, so basically, just to get to the book, we're on page 229, and we're reading about the 6 ghosts of fear. So we just actually yesterday, if you didn't catch the episode, we read about these questions you can ask yourself to find out if you have got these ghosts of fear running you, and how to sort of spot them. And the idea is that you spend a day asking yourself these questions, which I'm sure none of us did, and then you come back to it once a week. So did anyone actually go back and look at them after we did the reading?
I read them last night.
Oh, you did? Ah. Good for you, Jackie. I just remembered that I totally forgot.
The book is almost over, right?
No, I think we're going to finish it today.
Yeah.
That
I'd
was the
love
only
to
thing
read
that got
today.
me out of bed this morning.
I'd love to read today, and maybe after I finish, I can go back and read the questions again. If you'd like.
Yeah. We're going to get to the. Well, there's more questions coming up. There's quite a lot to go. Well, let's see. Yeah, if you could read, that'd be great, Tracy. We're basically the last paragraph of 229. You have absolute control over the one thing,
Okay.
and that is your thoughts. Cool.
Google is asking me for permission to do stuff, and not right now. You have absolute control over but one thing, and that is your thoughts. This is the most significant and inspiring of all facts known to man. It reflects man's divine nature, and when I say man, I mean human. This divine prerogative is the sole means by which you may control your own destiny. If you fail to control your mind, you may be sure you will control nothing else. If you must be careless with your possessions, let it be in connection with material things. Your mind is your spiritual estate. Protect and use it with the care to which divine royalty is entitled. You were given a willpower for this purpose. Unfortunately, there is no legal protection against those who, either by design or ignorance, poison the minds of others by negative suggestion. This form of destruction should be punishable by heavy legal penalties, because it may and often does destroy one's chances of acquiring material things which are protected by law. People with negative minds tried to convince Thomas A. Edison that he could not build a machine that would record and reproduce the human voice, because they said no one else had ever produced such a machine. Edison did not believe them. He knew that the mind could produce anything the mind could conceive and believe, and that knowledge was the thing that lifted the great Edison above the common herd. People with negative minds who used Woolworth, he would go broke trying to run a store on 5 and 10 cent sales. He did not believe them. He knew that he could do anything, within reason, if he backed his plans with faith. Exercising his right to keep other people's negative suggestions out of his mind, he piled up a fortune of more than $100 million. People with negative minds told George Washington he could not hope to win against the vastly superior forces of the British, but he exercised his divine right to believe. Therefore, this book was published under the protection of the Stars and Stripes, while the name of Lord Cornwallis has been all but forgotten. Doubting Thomases scoffed scornfully when Henry Ford tried out his first crudely built automobile on the streets of Detroit. Some said the thing never would become practical. Others said no one would pay money for such a contraption. Ford said, "I'll belt the earth with dependable motor cars," and he did. His decision to trust his own judgment has already piled up a fortune far greater than the next 5 generations of his descendants can squander. For the benefit of those seeking vast riches, let it be remembered that practically the sole difference between Henry Ford and a majority of the more than 100,000 men who work for him is this: Ford has a mind and controls it. The others have minds which they do not try to control. Henry Ford repeatedly mentioned because an astounding mind of his own and the will to control it can accomplish. His record knocks the foundation from under that time-worn alibi and never had a chance. Ford never had a chance either, but he created an opportunity and backed it with persistence until it made him richer than Croesus. Mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit. You either control your mind or it controls you. There is no halfway compromise. The most practical of all methods for controlling the mind is the habit of keeping it busy with a definite purpose backed by a definite plan. Study the record of any person who achieves noteworthy success, and you will observe that they have control over their own mind. Moreover, that they exercise that control and direct it toward the attainment of definite objectives. Without this control, success is not possible. By Old Man If. People who do not succeed have one distinguishing trait in common. They know all the reasons for failure and have what they believe to be airtight alibis to explain away their own lack of achievement. Some of these alibis are clever, and a few of them are justifiable by the facts. But alibis cannot be used for money. The world wants to know only one thing: have you achieved success? A character analyst compiled a list of the most commonly used alibi. As you read the list, examine yourself carefully and determine how many of these alibis, if any, are your own property. Remember, too, the philosophy presented in this book makes every one of these alibis obsolete. If I didn't have a wife and family, if I had enough pull, If I had money, if I had a good education, if I could get a job, if I had good health, if only I had time, if times were better, if other people understood me, if conditions around me were only different, if I could live my life over again, if I did not fear what they would say, if I had been given a chance, if I now had a chance, if others didn't have it in for me, if nothing happens to stop me, if I were only younger, if I could only do what I want, if I had been born rich, if I could meet the right people, if I had the talent that some people have, if I dared assert myself, if I had embraced past opportunity, if people didn't get on my nerves, if I didn't have to keep house and look after the children, if I could save some money, if the boss only appreciated me, if I only had somebody to help me, if my family understood me, if I lived in a big city, if I could just get started, if I were only free, if I had the personality of some people, if I were not so fat, if my talents were known, if I could just get a break, if I could only get out of debt, if I hadn't failed, if I only knew how, if everybody didn't oppose me, if I didn't have so many worries, if I could marry the right person, if people weren't so dumb, if my family were not so extravagant, if I were sure of myself, if luck were not against me, if I had not been born under the wrong star, if it were not true that what is to be will be, if I did not have to work so hard, if I hadn't lost my money, if I lived in a different neighborhood, if I didn't have a past, if I only had a business of my own, if other people would only listen to me, if, and this is the greatest of them all, I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others. For I know that there is something wrong with me, or I would now be where I would have been if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. Excuse me. Building alibis with which to explain away failure is a national pastime. The habit is as old as the human race and is fatal to success. Why do people cling to their pet alibis? The answer is obvious. They defend their alibis because they create them. A man's alibi is the child of his own imagination. It is human nature to defend one's own brainchild. Building alibis is a deeply rooted habit. Habits are difficult to break, especially when they provide justification for something we do. Plato had this truth in mind when he said, "The first and best victory is to conquer self." To be conquered by self is, of all things, the most shameful and vile. Another philosopher had the same thought in mind when he said, "It was a great surprise to me when I discovered that most of the ugliness I saw in others was but a reflection of my own nature." "It has always been a mystery to me," said Albert Hubbard, "when people spend so much time deliberately fooling themselves by creating alibis to cover their weaknesses. If used differently, this same time would be sufficient to cure the weakness, then no alibis would be needed." In parting, I would remind you that life is a checkerboard, and the player opposite you is time. If you hesitate before moving, or neglect to move promptly, your men will be wiped off the board by time. You are playing against a partner who will not tolerate indecision. Previously, you may have had a logical excuse for not having forced life to come through with whatever you ask, but that alibi is now obsolete, because you are in possession of the master key that unlocks the door to life's bountiful riches. The master key is intangible, but it is powerful. It is the privilege of creating, in your own mind, a burning desire for a definite form of riches. There is no penalty for the use of the key, but there is a price you must pay if you do not use it. The price is failure. There is a reward of stupendous proportions if you put the key to use. It is the satisfaction that comes to all who conquer self and force life to pay whatever is asked. The reward is worthy of your effort. Will you make the start and be convinced? If we are related, said the immortal Emerson, we shall meet. In closing, may I borrow his thought and say, if we are related, we have, through these pages, met. The end. Speak, Sandy, speak. Did I leave everyone speechless?
I'm still here.
Okay, good.
Hey, Tracy, you know, one of the things that I heard when I was a young man is if was a skiff we could sail forever. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, good, I'm back. Sandy, we can't hear you. Can anyone else hear Sandy?
No. Can you hear me?
Do you know sign language?
She's silent. Oh dear. Must be the connection, huh?
No, she must be muted somehow.
Oh no, Cat got your
Since you're
phone?
muted on my computer.
Yeah, you just muted yourself again, Sandy.
Oh yeah, she's got the mute on now.
So, until she can speak again, maybe I can ask a question here. Out of all those 57 ifs, were there any that really stood out with any of you? I can say for me personally was, if I only knew the right people. That one jumped out at me. And I feel like when I get to Charlotte in 2 weeks, I'm going to know the right people. But that's a different story altogether. How about you, Glenn?
Well, you know, I think all of those we kind of visit at certain times of our life, right? You know, if I didn't have a family and that type of thing, you know. But you know, when you read this book and you get your mind in the right place, then you move beyond that, right? You know, you understand that the ifs don't work. You know, stories and reasons don't work. You know, what works is getting your mind in the right place. You know.
And a lot of those ifs can be turned into positives, can be turned into tools to use in your favor. If I didn't have a wife and kids, that's not necessarily a good one. You can always turn that around and say, because I have a wife and kids, I have the support that I need to do what I need to do.
Right.
And the inspiration.
Yeah, exactly. And if I had grown up in the right neighborhood, well, if you'd grown up in the right neighborhood, you might be rich and lazy.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
The people who start at the bottom and work their way to the top, they seem to have the greatest triumphs. So all of those can be used as weapons, tools.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me at all, or not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on. I was outside. It's worked before outside, so anyway. Actually, something I just heard this morning is quite relevant to this, and it was a guy. He was saying that when people want to do something and they don't know how they're going to do it, what happens for most of us is our brain automatically goes to the reasons why we can't do it. And what he does is the opposite. He starts thinking of all the reasons why he can, and like reprogramming the mind so that you don't automatically go to the can'ts, well, if only I had this, or if only I had that. And I thought that was quite interesting because I've never consciously done that, you know. Like actually sat there and gone, okay, well I can go because of this, I can go because of that, or I can do this because of this, or do it because of that.
Yeah.
So it's like
I
flipping
listened
it
to
on its head.
interview with this woman that worked at Nike way back in the early 80s when they first came out with their Just Do It campaign. And she said that when she worked, it was her first job after college. And so she thought the whole corporate world was like that because they would like go into a staff meeting and they would be like, all right, you're going to go do this. And they would like assign them like these impossible tasks and they would get back to their office and be like, well, how are we going to make this happen? And they're like, I don't know, but we just have to do it. And she said then when she went to her next job in the rest of the corporate world, she's like, oh, this is very quite different. Everybody says, no, we couldn't possibly do that. And she said the whole Nike attitude changed who she was as a person because that was her first job out of college. And they would do impossible things because they would just have that attitude.
That's so cool. I love that.
You know, I've mentioned Korea before, and I think what Jackie just said is a perfect example. It's a culture that's very like tied to rules or to customs, either or. So an example of what frustrated all the foreign people that live there is when you go to get a pizza, right? You go to a pizza place and you look at the menu and it's got all these different pizzas. And if you say, I just want a pizza with mushrooms, they say, we can't do that. You can do one with mushrooms and onions and green pepper and corn and all together. So just leave everything else off and just put them. Can't do that. And you want extra cheese? Can't be done. And I have a friend, I talked about it with my friend, and she goes, oh yeah, my friends and I use that phrase all the time in Korea. We just say, impossible cheese. Because it just, they don't look for a way to do it there in that culture. Another two friends of mine, two guys, went to a restaurant and they're big guys, like 6'4", big guys, and they wanted an extra large pizza, but on the menu it says, family pizza serves 3 or 4. The waitress said, you are not family. And they said, we just want a big pizza, but you're not family. You're not a family, so you can't eat it. So they called the manager over, and the manager's like, well, I'm really not supposed to sell you a family pizza. It's not a family. It's just this idea that it can't be done, and no one is willing to think, how can it be done? Well, here's how it can be done. Throw the extra cheese on the pizza. Serve the big pizza to the big guys who want to spend $35 on it, and be done with it. We'll get them up to speed sooner or later. But that's the case of an entire culture seeing it that way.
Yeah. Well, and I guess what he's saying is that he's giving all these examples of Edison, Henry Ford, Woolworths, the guy behind Woolworths. It's funny to hear him talked about because Woolworths was a huge store in the UK. But he's basically saying that they just didn't give up. And they created an opportunity and backed it with persistence, and so it made them richer than Croesus, whoever Croesus is. And that mind control is the result of self-discipline and habit.
Can you imagine if Henry Ford or Thomas Edison had listened? Where would we be today?
Someone's typing. It's
Oh, sorry. I type really loud.
It's really loud. Because it's like if your microphone was in the computer.
Yeah, I'm an editor, and we type.
Yeah,
we type angrily.
Yeah. So do you all get inspired when you hear that? Like, do you have things that you're working towards? Like, do you guys have a clear sense of that? Like, have you got more of a sense of it from reading the book? Because we've finished the first reading of it now. Like, do you feel more clear about what exactly you're doing? Or like the same, or confused?
I definitely feel clear. I feel I'm really clear now of everywhere that I kind of let my mind stop me from going forward. And I found this really helpful because I didn't really know what to expect. I thought, I didn't know what to expect, but what it was really done for me is just make me really focused, and it really I can be really aware now of all the things that stop me, and I'm really aware not to let them stop me and just stay quite focused and keep my mind.
To correct your course, right?
Yeah.
That's what I find too. I'm catching my mistakes or my inner gremlins quicker, and I'm able to spray bottle. Get them out of there,
That's the spray bottle,
Yeah.
Just spray myself, and course correct. And course correcting, I think, is like they say with an airplane. An airplane is on the wrong course 99% of the time. It's constantly course correcting. So we have to be like airplanes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Really?
a good analogy. Hey, I just read
Glenn and Jackie?
uh, a little book called "As a Man or Woman Thinketh," right, by James Allen, and it's a very small, condensed little book, and you can read it in probably an hour or less. And that's really a summary. I mean, kind of a condensed version of what Napoleon Hill takes us to, right? Which is that the mind controls just about everything, all of your results, right?
Yeah.
So I'd recommend that book. And it's available in the public domain, but I downloaded it and read it on my Kindle reader,
Okay. Could you post the title of it in the group, Glenn, afterwards?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'll put it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I had a
91
little-
cents on Amazon.
As a man thinketh.
As a man thinketh, as a woman thinketh, right? Either one,
But you won't be able to find it as a woman thinketh.
I was going to
Search
say,
it, I
wow,
think.
another book that ignores women.
When's your
I
book
had
coming
trouble
out?
with the language of "as a man thinketh." The language used in "as a man thinketh."
1902.
It was a little. The language was a little weird and a little. I can't read philosophical stuff too much, and I've gone through "as a man thinketh" several times, and I still close the book and I'm like, what the hell did I just read?
Yeah.
I'll do it again.
And how
I'll
about
give it
you,
another
Jackie?
try.
Have you noticed any? Oh.
Yeah, I feel like I'm getting more positive thought. I'm getting kind of more like you, where I just like try to shut those negative thoughts off, and I can focus more on being aware that they're just negative thoughts, and that these other successful
Yeah.
people had them really helps me be positive.
Yeah.
And the negative thoughts
I
are
found
real.
Yeah, because sometimes the negative people in our life, it's in here. It's not like what we were talking about yesterday with the people around us. Sometimes it can be ourselves. And I found doing this study group helps to notice it, like you just said, Jackie, and Tracy as well. Like you just notice it more, and it's not. It feels like it's becoming less part of me, because when I notice it, I feel it's almost like, oh, I think of how to describe it, like an illness, and you're like, oh, hang on, no. Whereas before, the illness was in you, and then you're just kind of like pushing it away, because it's not just like when you're always just doing it, you don't even realize. But when you start to become more consciously aware of it, and this group, just the fact that we meet so often, I find it just helps me like, oh, okay, going back there again, no way.
Stay on track.
Something else I've noticed, yeah, exactly, is that it's made me feel less separate from people that achieved phenomenal success than I did before. Sorry, my door just slammed. Like reading about Ford and Edison and all the different people that he goes through, it really seems very clear to me that they had an idea and they just didn't let go until they made it happen. They weren't like divinely gifted, or they didn't have magical powers that we don't have. I just really feel like this book helps you to realize that you can do that as well. And incidentally, I noticed that, and I'll finish after this, but like when we started, the work I do, I know that Tracy and Geraldine, you do too. There's kind of leaderboards where people are placed with the number of points, because it's kind of like to keep you, so that you know where you are with what you're doing, because we do kind of marketing. And I never even used to look at those boards before, ever, once in a blue moon. And around the time of starting this group, I began looking every single morning. In fact, that was the first thing I would do when I looked at my business. I'd look at who was on that list. And over the 2 months, now when I look at it, I can see my name on there, even though it's not yet there. I know it's going to be. And it's so interesting. I noticed that this morning. I was like, wow, I can really feel it way more than just like 2 months ago. Because there's less separation. It's not like those are the weird magical people, and there's me that's not magical,
You're magic.
So
Yeah, you're
we
building.
all are.
You're building
All
that.
of us are.
You're building that magic. You know.
Yeah, and all of you as well. Like we all are. So um, so actually, now that we finished the book, I have some lecture notes. I've mentioned this before, which are really good. They're lectures that Napoleon did that somebody sent me. So my suggestion is that we read those, and
Cool.
then before like starting the book, I would like to read it again because I just want to be a total student of it.
Me too.
Definitely.
I thought about using other books, but I think the initial download I got for this group was really to focus on this book. So for now, and Napoleon's work, basically. So, so actually, I was going to suggest
You do
because
know
I can't.
there's a Think and Grow Rich for Women coming out next Tuesday, don't you?
No, really?
Yeah.
You mean it's been edited?
It's
to
written
be,
by the woman who helped write Rich Dad Poor Dad, Sharon. I forget what her name is, but she works for the Napoleon Hill Foundation, and she's written several books for them. And her Think and Grow Rich for Women is it's available on Amazon. You can pre-order it, but it's coming out on the 17th.
Oh my God!
Just saying.
Maybe we should read that.
Well,
because
there are updated versions we could read, but I don't know if we would be.
And then Timothy Ferris
There would be a
recommended.
copyright infringement or not to read. Would it? Would it be a copyright infringement to read the newer version?
I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I wondered about that.
Because it is being recorded.
Okay.
Timothy Ferris also recommends a version. I want to say it's like Think and Grow Rich for Black people or Think and Grow Rich for colored people or something.
But
That
you,
he
Think
said
and Grow
he
Rich for
actually
stick
likes better.
figures.
Huh?
you mean Jackie? Do you mean this is like just a different version of the book, or just completely different books?
I don't know. I haven't never looked at either. Well, the one isn't even out yet.
Okay. Well,
I've seen
do
other
the
versions. I've seen other versions, and what they do is they have editor's notes. They have updated the language. They probably don't mention the colored girl demanding 50 cents. They probably refer to it as black girl or whatever,
Yeah.
African American or something like. It's they just update the language and the gender is fixed a bit more. I don't know what the ruling is on this.
I'll have to check the copyright because.
I'm good with going back to this one again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy just to.
And I like the way that you have it, the PDF available. Like that really helped.
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to put a newer version in the group because that would be flouting, and I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that because it's
Right.
people would put time and effort into, and I would just be giving it out free. It would be like pirating. I'll have a think about it, but we'll do the lecture notes, and then we'll see.
Cool.
Oh, and Maria says hello. So, hi, Maria. We're just finishing up now, actually. Maria sounds like she's in Portugal or Spain. In the Q&A. I'm not sure if anyone else can see apart from me. So, do you guys mind if we actually just meet on Monday? Because seeing as
That'd be good.
tomorrow I can't be here, and it doesn't really make sense if we're starting a whole new thing. I've
Take
got
a
to
day off
organize.
to absorb.
Yeah, exactly. Go through those questions.
Can I add just one more thing, Stan?
Yeah.
I've been recording Think and Grow Rich chapter by chapter, and I want to give it to everyone in this group if they're interested in having a recorded version that I did.
Like an audio version to listen to?
An audio version, and I'm editing it, and I'm trying to do it as good as I can. I've got the first 4 chapters recorded. And then now that Glenn mentioned As a Man Thinketh, I wrote that down, like, I can record this in one day. And so I'll start posting links for people if they want to get that and add it to their mobile university.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Tracy. You can
Zig
post
Ziglar calls it Automobile U.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know who Zig Ziglar is?
Yeah.
I was just going to say something about the questions. Like the one that stuck out in my head last night is, who is the? Wait, I just lost it. Who do you believe is the greatest person living right now? And then, in what respect is this person superior to yourself? And that just kind of reminded me of what Sandy was that you were saying about, like, you know, you're just the same as them. They're living right now. You could be just like them right now. It made me think, even though I don't know. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Like if you follow, they've obviously done things and followed some steps, but these are the steps that he's put in this book. So yeah, that are open
just
to
made
all
me
of
feel
us.
closer to that.
Yeah. I think I'm freezing.
Okay. Well, so Monday.
Yes, okay,
Cool.
Monday. And
I got a
thank you
late
so
night
much for
tonight
reading
anyway.
Tracy.
No problem.
Sorry, my connection's a bit warped today. Have a
Have
great
a good
weekend,
weekend,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Talk to you
Bye.
guys later.
Bye. Bye, everyone watching.
Bye.
Okay.